Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why do you get so weird when people come over? A minute ago you were fine. Then the door opens, a guest steps in, and suddenly your dog goes quiet. Not sleepy quiet, not relaxed quiet, a strange quiet. The wagging stops, the mouth closes. They stick to your leg, slip behind the couch, sit in the hallway, or just watch in total silence. And because they are not barking, not lunging, not making a scene, you tell yourself maybe it's okay. Maybe they're just shy. Maybe they're being good. Maybe this is better than barking. But that little knot in your stomach is there for a reason. Because with dogs, silence can be one of the easiest things to misread. A lot of owners assume a quiet dog around visitors is a calm dog, a polite dog, maybe a slightly awkward dog. And to be fair, that assumption makes sense. Noise feels like a problem. Silence feels like the absence of a problem. If your dog isn't exploding at the door, it is tempting to think they're handling it well. But what if the quiet is not comfort? What if the quiet is communication? That is the part so many people miss. Dogs do not only speak when they bark. Sometimes the loudest message in the room is coming from the dog who suddenly says nothing. Think about how familiar this is. The puppy who becomes eerily still when your friends lean down to say hello. The rescue dog who leaves the room the second company arrives. The adult dog who used to trot around the house and now plants himself at your feet, silent and watchful, every time the doorbell rings. People will often call that dog mellow, reserved, even well-behaved. But those words can hide a much more important question. What is happening inside that dog's body? Because when a visitor enters your home, your dog is not just noticing a person. Your dog is taking in a flood of information all at once. New scent, new voice, new movement, eye contact, footsteps, the sound of the door, your change in energy, the fact that home, which usually has a certain rhythm, suddenly feels different. To a dog, that is not a small event. It is a social and sensory shift. And in behavior science, when something important changes, animals often pause first. That pause is called an orienting response. In simple language, the nervous system stops the old activity and locks onto the new thing, not because the animal is blank, but because the animal is paying very close attention. So when your dog goes still and quiet, that can be the first clue that they are not disengaging from the moment at all. They may be deeply engaged. This is where people get fooled. We tend to notice dramatic behavior, barking, jumping, growling, retreating, but stress does not only wear a loud costume. One dog gets louder under pressure, another gets smaller, another freezes, another becomes hyper-polite, another looks like a perfect little statue. Fight, flight, and freeze are not three different personalities. They are three different ways a nervous system tries to stay safe, and freeze does not mean peace. It means, let me slow everything down and gather information before I choose. That is why the same front door event can create completely different dogs. One dog sounds the alarm, another grabs a toy, another hides in the bedroom, another sits quietly next to the owner and doesn't make a peep. Different behavior, same basic truth. The dog is trying to regulate a moment that feels socially significant. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Quiet around visitors can mean several different things, and the difference is hidden in body language. A dog who is quietly observing with a loose body, soft eyes, normal breathing, and the ability to move away or come closer easily may simply be a thoughtful dog. Some dogs are socially selective. They like to gather information before they engage. That is not broken behavior. That is temperament. But a dog who gets quiet with a closed mouth, stiff posture, weight shifted back, tucked tail, pinned ears, rapid lip licks, yawns, ground sniffing, head turns, or a tendency to press into you without really relaxing is telling a different story. Those are not random little quirks. They are often social pressure signals. The dog may be saying, I am not comfortable with direct interaction. I want less intensity. I want space. I am trying very hard to keep this peaceful. This is why stillness is so tricky. In human culture, quiet and still often mean manners. In dogs, stillness can mean rest, but it can also mean high alert. A relaxed dog is loose even in silence. The face softens. The ribcage moves freely. The hips can flop to one side. The dog can look away, then back again, without looking trapped inside the moment. A worried dog often looks held together, as if the body is bracing. The jaw tightens. Movement becomes economical. The dog stops, offering their usual behaviors. Even the sniffing can look different, less exploratory, more like a way to avoid direct contact without starting conflict. This is one reason subtle dogs get missed. Their communication is polite. It doesn't interrupt the party. In fact, humans often reward it. We say, "Good, the dog is being calm." Meanwhile, the dog may be doing a huge amount of emotional work just to stay composed. That is the reframe that changes everything. What looks like a quiet dog may actually be a dog working very hard, not ignoring the room, monitoring it, not being dramatic, managing it, not being rude, regulating, and sometimes not feeling safe enough to be anything but careful. For rescue dogs, this can be especially powerful. People often say he gets weirdly quiet around visitors, and the instinct is to look for a simple personality label: shy, timid, unsocialized. But dogs do not respond to visitors in the abstract. They respond through memory. Learning theory matters here. Dogs build associations. If unfamiliar people have predicted crowding, reaching hands, loud voices, loss of space, or unpredictability, then visitors do not just mean people. Visitors mean history. The body remembers before the conscious mind has any neat little story about it. That matters for puppies too. A puppy can go silent around guests not because the puppy is naturally calm, but because the experience is large and the puppy's nervous system is still immature. Humans sometimes accidentally mistake overload for good manners. The puppy sits motionless, everyone admires how chill she is, but if you look closer, she isn't settled. She is suspended. And sometimes owners unintentionally teach a dog that visitor time is a period of endurance. The dog offers a small signal, maybe a head turn, a step away, a closed mouth, a little retreat, and the interaction continues anyway. Over repeated experiences, the dog learns that subtle honesty does not change much, so the behavior narrows. They may go quiet sooner and stay quiet longer. Not because they are more okay, but because they have become more efficient at coping. This is part of why "he's fine, he's just quiet" can be such a misleading sentence. A quiet dog may be choosing the least disruptive strategy available, and this is where a lot of guilt enters for loving owners. Because we want our dogs to be okay. We want the visit to be normal. We want people to feel welcomed, so we encourage, we coax, we bring the dog closer. We tell everyone, "She's fine, just let her sniff you." But from the dog's perspective, that can feel like being asked to perform sociability before safety has arrived. Dogs are intensely social animals, but social does not mean automatically comfortable with every human entering their space. In fact, many of the ways humans greet dogs are surprisingly high pressure. We lean in, we reach out, we stare. We laugh loudly, we bend over their heads. To us, this is friendliness. To many dogs, especially cautious ones, it can feel like a lot. Ethology, the study of natural behavior, helps here. Animals often use quiet body language to reduce conflict. They turn the head, they look away, they pause, they make themselves smaller. These are not signs of a dog plotting defiance. They are signs of a dog trying to keep the social temperature down. And then there is attachment, which adds another emotional layer most people never consider. Researchers like Josef Topal and Adam Miklosi have shown that dogs often use their caregiver as a kind of secure base when facing uncertainty. In plain English, your dog may stay close to you or go quiet beside you because your presence helps organize their nervous system. Behaviorists sometimes call this social buffering. A familiar being makes a hard moment easier to tolerate. So, if your dog gets silent and shadows you when visitors arrive, that is not always simple clinginess. It can be trust. Your dog may be saying, "This situation feels complicated," and you are the place in the room that still makes sense. That changes the emotional tone completely, because suddenly, the quiet is not just fear. It can also be relationship. It can be your dog reaching for regulation through you. And there is something almost heartbreaking in that. Many dogs do not just react to the guest. They react to the changed emotional geometry of the whole home. Your voice is different. Your attention is divided. Furniture might shift. People sit in places that usually belong to your routine. Home is not just a location for dogs, it is a pattern. When visitors arrive, the pattern changes. Your dog is reading all of it, which means the question is not only, "What does my dog think of this person?" Sometimes the deeper question is, what does my dog feel when our safe, predictable world suddenly becomes socially complex? Now, an important tension point. Not every quiet dog is distressed, and not every quiet dog needs to become a social butterfly. Some dogs truly prefer observation over instant contact. That is okay. The goal is not to manufacture extroversion, but silence should never be your only evidence that a dog is comfortable. The absence of noise is not the absence of emotion. So, what should you watch for? Watch for the quality of the quiet and watch for recovery. A dog who quietly observes, then loosens up, takes food, moves normally, sniffs, drinks water, or eventually chooses to approach on their own is telling you something very different from a dog who remains stiff, refuses food, hides, trembles, scans the room, pants, startles at movement, or takes a long time to come back to baseline after guests leave. Recovery is one of the most honest clues you have. Does your dog bounce back? Or do they carry the visit in their body long after the door closes? Also, pay attention to patterns. Is your dog quiet around everyone, or only certain visitors? Men, children, loud people, fast movers, people who smell unfamiliar, people who come directly toward them? Does the quiet happen only in the house, where space feels personal but not on walks? Does a previously social dog suddenly become more withdrawn around guests? Those details matter, because behavior always lives in context. And if this is a sudden new change in a dog who used to enjoy visitors, widen the lens. Pain, aging, sensory changes, or general physical discomfort can lower a dog's tolerance for social pressure. You do not need to panic, but you do want to respect the change instead of writing it off as moodiness. If a dog's silence starts to come with greater stiffness, avoidance, or a quicker jump to growling when approached, that matters too. Not because your dog is turning bad, but because quiet dogs can be pushed past their comfort without anyone realizing it. A dog that whispers may eventually feel forced to shout. Sometimes the growl or snap that people call sudden was not sudden at all. It was the moment after many softer signals were missed. There is one more subtle possibility here, and it matters. Some dogs become quiet around visitors because being quiet has worked before. Maybe barking brought attention they didn't want. Maybe moving away didn't create distance. Maybe the room kept closing in. Over time, the dog learns that silence is the least costly option. That does not automatically mean shutdown, but it can mean learned restraint. The dog stops offering bigger signals because bigger signals did not change the situation. This is why I think quietness around visitors deserves so much more respect than it usually gets, because it is not empty. It is full of information. If you want to help a dog like this, the first shift is not a command. It is a lens. Stop asking only, how do I make my dog act normal when people come over? Start asking, what is my dog communicating about space, pressure, predictability, and safety right now? That question changes what you notice. You start seeing that the dog who slipped behind your chair may not need encouragement to be brave. They may need the social pressure lowered. The dog who presses against your leg may not need to be pushed forward. They may need permission to stay anchored. The dog who walks away may not need to be called back so guests can pet them. They may need the relief of choice. Sometimes the most helpful visitor is the one who does less. The one who enters without looming, sits down instead of advancing, keeps their hands to themselves, lets the dog collect information from a distance, and allows the first real move to belong to the dog. Not because dogs should control the whole room, but because choice changes emotion, distance changes emotion, predictability changes emotion, and very often, when you reduce the pressure to interact, you get something much more real than forced friendliness. You get honest curiosity. A dog who can observe first may choose to approach later. A dog who is not trapped can actually relax. A dog who does not have to perform being okay has a better chance of becoming okay. If you're listening to this with that familiar pang of guilt, because your dog goes quiet and you always thought it meant something was wrong with them, take a breath. The deeper truth is often much kinder. Your dog is not failing the moment. Your dog is expressing the moment through the tools they have. Sometimes those tools are loud, sometimes they are subtle, sometimes they are beautifully restrained. And once you see that, your relationship changes. You stop measuring your dog by how convenient they are for other people. You start listening for what their behavior means in their own emotional language. That is the real shift. When your dog gets quiet around visitors, the most meaningful question is not, how do I stop this habit? It is, what is happening inside you that I can help with? Are you assessing? Are you overwhelmed? Are you asking for space? Are you using me as your safe point? Are you simply a dog who likes to enter social situations slowly? Those are very different stories, and your dog is telling you which one it is every single time with their body. So the next time the door opens and your dog goes silent, pause before you label it. Look at the mouth, the eyes, the tail, the breathing, the distance they choose, the speed of their recovery. Look at what happens when the social pressure rises and what happens when it drops. Because in that quiet moment, you are not watching a random quirk, you are watching communication, you are watching learning history, you are watching stress regulation, you are watching attachment, you are watching a dog trying to make sense of a human world that changes very quickly. And if you learn to hear that kind of silence, you don't just understand visitors better, you understand your dog better. If your dog gets quiet when people come over, tell me what that looks like in your house. Do they hide, freeze, stick to you, watch from another room, or slowly warm up once the pressure is gone? I'd love to read your experience. And if you want more dog behavior explained at this deeper level, subscribe. That's what we do here.